Okay, so we're about ready to start this process. The first thing, well, what I forgot to tell you before about the prep is you need a source of cold water. So we usually have it just in the tea kettle, some cold water, because what you want to do is once it starts boiling and you're almost ready to start cooking, you want to stop it from boiling. That's one of the important things. You don't want the water to be boiling while you're cooking the pasta, because then it'll get too fluffy. All right, so it's going to boil and not boil, but for now, but that's just something to remember. So what I've done over here is we're starting the first thing you want to do is start doing the onions. So that's the first thing, because that takes a little bit longer than the pasta. So I have a little bit of oil in there, and I got the pan kind of hot, and I threw a few in there, and it's starting to sizzle, so I'm going to add the rest of it.
You did olive oil, right?
A little bit of olive oil at first, not a lot, just a little bit, just to get them cooking. And I have it almost at a high. It's like medium high to high, because as you recall probably from eating them, very few recipes call for blackened onions, but this is what we do here. I've seen a few like variations, like even Omi's family. I've seen them where they cut the onions really thin and long, and then they almost make like a light onion ring kind of thing. So that's something I'm gonna try to experiment with, because they're not as blackened that way, but because blackened onions get bitter, but that's part of the taste too. So this is the first thing you want to be doing. Again, I haven't even added any eggs or any milk or anything. Still sitting there just like that, because you want to get this thing going. And then while you're cooking the pasta, you're going to be looking over at the onions too and making sure they're cooking, because you want them to be done when you're done cooking the spaetzle noodles. You don't have to wait to finish this. So you want these to be pretty brown before you start anything else, and it's getting that way. It's starting to get that way, but not quite yet. And once they start getting brown, then you can start adding a little bit of butter. The other thing I found is once the oil reduces into the onions, then you can start adding the butter, because when the butter melts, it creates a little bit of a depth of moisture, so that it starts cooking the onions all around instead of just searing them on the bottom. The butter will start getting hot and spreading around, and then it creates a little bit of like a pool, and then the whole onion gets cooked, if you know what I'm saying. And once it starts getting like, you can see the pan starting to get a little brown, you can turn the heat down a little bit. So I've got it down to like just above medium high now. That's kind of like medium high. So at this point, they're starting to brown, so then you can start with the other stuff, because by the time the pasta is all ready, once the spices are ready, you can finish it off kind of quicker. Like I've turned it down a little bit, but if they're not quite done, you can turn it up and blacken them. But at this point, you see I added a little bit of butter, and this is just the feel. You just keep adding butter. And then at the end, you add a lot of butter. So you just have onions and a bunch of melted butter. But right now you're using the butter to cook the onions. You're not melting the butter, pour it over the spaetzle yet. Now it's just kind of helping to cook the butter. You see how it's kind of getting hot? It's getting the whole pan hot. And you're going to get a blackened pan. You probably have nonstick. You don't have as many non-stick pans, but this is not a non-stick pan, so you're gonna have to clean this out. So anyway, so now that that's going, I can start over here. So you want to just kind of keep your eye on that, stir it every once in a while, turn it down a little bit and just kind of go by feel. So over here I've created a little well. I already added my salt, as you recall, so I have a little well in the middle. And we have our eggs, so I'll just crack the eggs. And this, you can if you want. Well, I mean, you don't have to do this, but we do this because of our eggs. You don't, sometimes you get a bad egg. So if it's not a good egg, you don't want to dump a bad egg in there, then you messed everything up. So I do a couple eggs. If they look good, I go like that. That's 2. If you, like I said, if you get a bad egg, then you can just toss that out and you're not wrecking everything in here. So it's 4. It's always good to, when you crack an egg, don't crack it on the side. Crack it like that crack it on a flat surface.
I don't do that.
Don't crack it on the side because it breaks it. Well, I mean, that's more if you don't want to break the yolk, and so you don't care if the yolk is broken. But so that's 6 eggs. I have 5 things. I'll do 1 more egg. So that's, again, that's a little bit of a feel. Like you could just do 5 or 6, but I do 7 eggs. So I'm starting to smell the onion, so that brings me back over here. And they're starting to get a little blackened now anyway, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll move it to the back burner and put it on a lower heat. Like that's getting, like they're pretty good already.
Yeah, they look darker in person too than they do on the camera.
Okay, yeah, I mean they're getting dark, so at this point I'm going to move it to the back. Turn this off and turn this on to like a 4 or something, because it's going to continue to cook. See, all I really need to do at this point is add butter, so I can stop cooking it now. But it's going to continue cooking a little because the pan is hot. So that's good. So then back over here, I have a little well here, and again, you want to have everything sort of ready to go because the process goes fast. Like once you're ready to do this, once you're ready to mix the Spaetzle, you want to be able to go right away because you don't want it sitting. So that's like the main thing. So this is boiling, which is good. I turn it down from high to like medium high. So that when it's time to go, then I can just go. So what I do, I don't know if this is right or not, but I break the yolks and do it in the middle like that. And now it's time to start adding the milk, and this is kind of an important step. We use obviously the farm milk, the whole milk, and pasteurized, whatever you want. So this is kind of an important step because you want a certain consistency. You don't want to make it too runny. All right, so I just add a little bit at a time. Like I just go by feel. I know that that's going to be okay for now. I don't even know how much that was. It was probably a little less than a cup. I'm going to need more than that, but you start mixing it. Like I always go just a little at a time, because once you add too much, then it's runny, and then you're done. So this is probably another cup I'm adding right now. Like there's probably an amount. There's probably a certain amount. Like based on the amount of cups of flour, there's probably a certain amount of milk that goes with it. I just can't remember what it is. I always just go by feel. And the other important thing about this is you don't over mix it. It's okay to have some white left over in there. Have some flour that you can see, even when you put it in there to make it. It's okay. Like this is almost enough. Like you definitely don't want it much more than this, just a little bit more. So this is like the critical time here, is that you don't want to make it too runny. But if you do, it's okay. It still tastes good. See, this is about right. Okay, so this is right. So at this point, you want to be able to go. So you don't want to just sit here, have this thing sit here. So everything's got to be ready to go. Like you have the thing, your container you're going to move it to. You have your strainer ready. You have your Spaetzle macher ready to go. And then you have your cold water. And again, so you see how this is boiling a little bit. You want it hot but not boiling. So if you can see, it's boiling now, and I just add just a little bit of water to get rid of the boil, and then you start. So what I usually do is I do 2 scoops of this, something like that, or just kind of fill it up to the top of the little container. And as I recall, it's like usually 2 scoops. Yeah, so that's like 2 scoops. That looks pretty good. And then off you go. Just keep going until it's all gone. And you just do one. You just do 1 container full, and like sometimes it's gone the end, and you just do some more. It's kind of gross, but so that you bang it, get it off of there, and this is when you want your fork, and you just kind of start mixing it a little bit. And I think I just do just that one, and then you just kind of let it sit, and then the next thing you need to know is when to take it out, okay? And that's also, you go by sight on that. And I'm looking over here at this. This is starting to get a little soggy, so I turn this heat up a little bit on the onions. Get that cooking again, and then I'll add some more. But we're in good shape with that. So, and yeah, I mix it a little bit here and there. And then basically what you want to do is kind of just observe it, and it starts fluffing up a little bit. Right? What you don't want it to do is to start boiling over. Like that's what you don't want to do. Once you see you'll be able to tell like if it's starting to boil over, then you're going to add a little water. And then you'll know when to take it out, like when it starts like filling up a little bit with water, and like the noodles are taking on a little bit of water, and it's starting to just froth just slightly. I don't want to say froth really, because you don't want it to froth over, because then it gets too mushy. So, and you can also take your fork and kind of just go through it like that, and then you can kind of feel it too. Like there's a firmness. Again, it's just a feel. And you can hear the onions are starting to fry up again. And then you go grab some more butter. Add some butter to that a little bit. And keep your eye on that. And you start seeing maybe little bubbles. Then it's time to you start taking it out. It's also just like a few minutes. You take your strainer and look at it, see how it looks. All right, I think that's starting to look pretty good, so I'm going to take it out, take these out, just shake it up. I just swipe it a little bit and it goes in there. I do a couple scoops, swipe it a little bit, it goes in there. And then what I'll do is I'll add some cheese to that layer, just to cover it. And then I'll take the rest of it, shake it through, because you want the water to come out of it. Take it out, dump it on top. Do it again. See, this is pretty good. It's starting to boil over, which is okay. It's starting to boil a little bit. It's okay. What you don't want to see is like a lot of you don't want to see the noodles breaking down and starting to color the water too much, and then you've left it in there too long. So I've taken out most of it. So I did one layer, added some cheese, another layer, add some more cheese. And then you're keeping your eye on the onions. And you observe the onions, and then take your trusty fork and mix that all up, and then do a taste. That's why I said before, you have plenty of time to see if you need more salt. So don't ever add too much at first, because then you're dead. That tastes pretty good. I don't think that needs. Let's see, it tastes pretty good. So once you taste that, then you want to get going on the next one because you don't want to just sit too long. You want to like move quick. And sometimes I'll just add a little bit of just a tiniest bit of water, just like that, just to take off the boil. And then we're going in again. See how there's a little bit of flour there that you can see? That's totally fine. At least that's what Omid always said. So you got that filled up, and you go through again. Thing. So I'll add it back in. Like I don't know if these are good ones or not, but I mean good Spaetzle makers or not. Bring it down and just wait. And so that's sizzling nicely. Like these are about done. Like I'll turn this back down a little bit. Again, you just kind of. What happens is that the noodles are like mixed in throughout the, like deep into the water, and the noodles start to rise up. Like if you start stirring, you'll see it, you'll feel it, you feel them down on the bottom, and they start rising up, and then they start bubbling, or they start like, you see little bubbles and stuff, and then you know that it's to get out. So it's very messy. It's a very messy job, so I always have to try to keep my hands from getting all yucky. Again, you just kind of keep stirring it. And then again, you feel it, you kind of feel it, they're getting firm. And then you sort of know that it's time to, the bubbles start coming up and the firmness feels right. And then you know that it's time. Looking good. So this is about what you want these onions to look like. So I'll just take them off, and then at the very end, when it comes time to add them, I'll put them back on the heat, add a bunch of more butter. Then at that point, you're just like, have a bunch of onions and butter that you pour over. So anyway, so I'm stirring here. This looks pretty good. Take them out. Again, that's just like a feel. You're not going to get it right the first time, and that's all right. So I do a couple scoops again. Add some cheese. Yeah, just cheese just enough to cover the top of it. Add some more cheese. Finish out this. Straighten it like that, even it out at the top. Add a little bit more cheese on top. Take your trusty fork wherever that is. I always lose everything. Oh, there it is. And you kind of just mix it all up again and taste it. Again, you're just tasting it, and then make sure it tastes good. And see if it needs more salt, you can add a little bit more salt. You're kind of mixing the cheese in so that you're mixing it up pretty good so that the cheese spreads out and doesn't clump up. You don't want the cheese to clump up. And then you're tasting it as it goes. That tastes pretty good. I'm just going to just a slight amount of salt. That's it. Mix it all in. Now you're back. Now you finish up. This would be the last little bit that you'll need for that container. Again, I'm making extra, and I'll just explain a little bit about that later. So there's one, and there's two. That kind of fills up the thing. And you can see it's starting to boil. So it's got a little water so it doesn't boil. And then off you go. Probably just do part of this in the first container and the rest of it together. it's gonna like go down the side of the pot. It's like really, it just makes a mess. So you can tell by the, so when I see that here, I might have added a little bit too much of the cold water because a lot of it went down to the bottom, but that's it. So you mix it, and then it'll all start to get hot and come up to the top. How many minutes?
20 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh boy. Okay. Maybe we could probably stop this now.